Hey everyone, welcome to my studio. This week I'll be working on this dog named Chester. I'm going to be working on this wildflower mosaic, which is going to be 100% great, working around all these little tiny pieces to get that greenery in there. And drum roll please. I have been working on a project behind the scenes for quite a while now, and I have finally just finished the design phase. So I'm going to reveal it to you now. Hold on. This is phase 2 of a community mosaic project where we make mandalas, and they will be installed on the same wall as the mandala project that was done last year by the community. Only this time, instead of 3 mandalas that are 15 square feet total, I have 15 mandalas that are about 15 square feet total. So it sort of starts down here with these 9-inch mandalas, and there are 6 of them. I tried to keep the designs relatively simple because they're so small. There's not a whole lot of room in these to make it very elaborate. And then I have got 3 that are 12-inch diameter, which are these 3, and then 3 that are 15-inch diameter, and last of all 3 that are 18-inch diameter. Those are the biggest 3. So I have to make the substrate, get the substrates prepped, and that's what I'll be doing this week. Here's a look back at the finished mandalas that we did last year. Now the biggest one is this blue one. It's a 36-inch diameter. You can see I used a lot of mirror, so I'm going to try to use a lot of the same elements just so that they fit in. My substrate is a 36 by 60 inch piece of Wedi board, but they don't all fit on one. I'm going to have to put them on 2. So I drew out a diagram of how they're going to fit. And the only place where I have enough room to work on this right now is outside on my deck. And, you know, there are just too many plants around here. I'm gonna have to clean these plants off. These are my little patio tomatoes. Doing all right, but that was a joke. There's no such thing as too many plants. I'm gonna move these plants and then I'm gonna get started. Good grief. Can't get started yet. Now I've got to clean the table. My table's dripping wet, so while I wait for that to dry, I'm going to give you a little garden update. A couple weeks ago, I did a little tour of my garden showing the mosaics in it, and I had this area where I said I was going to add a flower bed and pull this mosaic bird bath out from underneath the bush where it was getting loaded with leaves, and it was always dirty and I always had to clean it out. And we finally did it, so let me show it to you. This is the old flower bed, and this is where the new flower bed begins. We added stepping stones that go to my compost bin back there, and I added this edging and all these flowers and pulled this out, and it looks a little mucky in there, and that is because I had to put the always necessary mosquito granules in there so that I don't grow mosquitoes in my bird bath. And I've seen the birds, I've been able to see the birds using it so much more than when it was tucked back under there and it would always get a lot of leaves in it. Now it's barely gotten any leaves in it, and it's just a much better, I have a much better view of it from my house. It's way, way better. All right, see if my thing is dry yet. placement of these on the Wedi board is I have put them right next to the edge because I'll be using a jigsaw to cut them out and I can go all the way to the edge. But in between the pieces, I have spaced it just a little bit so that the width of the blade has room to get between those and it won't cut into the actual inner circle. So when I go to cut these, that inner circle is what I'm aiming for on all of them. This little hummingbird kept visiting me while I was working, and so when I was finished cleaning up, I went out there with my phone and finally caught it on camera. Look at this fantastic stack of Wedi board substrates. It looks like a cake. It's all ready for alkali-resistant fiberglass tape to go on the edges and a layer of thinset. I'm getting ready to tackle the greens on this. And for starters, I would like to say that although the original photo has the greens coming up about right in here, this is where the flowers were. And I used artistic license to make the flowers go all the way up to here. So my green is going to come much, much higher than what you see in this photo. And it's going to cover up much more of the fence. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that if you look at the green that's on here and the green that I used a little bit for the leaves up here, and this is a very bright green, but it's a little bit streaky, which is nice. But you can see it doesn't quite match this green, and I think I might use it for a little bit more green here and there, but it's definitely not going to be my main green. So for the main bits of green, I will be using this much more subdued green. It's got lighter parts and darker parts, and it's much, much more realistic and true to the colors that are on here. So that's for starters. And then I'm gonna bring in a little bit of darker green, and I like the mottled because it looks more realistic. It looks like the shadows that you would see and the highlights that you would see on leaves in a situation like this. And then I'm about to show you a piece of glass that is my secret weapon. I don't pull it out very often, but it's very handy for something like this. And I don't know what type of glass it is. So here it is. I'm not sure where I bought it or where I got it. I worked in a glass store for a while, so it may have come from there, but I've also purchased a couple of studios, and it may have come in a stash in one of the studios. It's very similar. It has flecks and little bits in there that are fused onto it. And so it's a little bit thicker than regular glass, and it makes it a little bit more difficult when it comes time to grout, but I don't care. It's amazing, and it's great for foliage. And it has lighter parts and darker parts on it. So likely I will cut just a strip off and work that strip in. It's not going to be all this or anything. So I feel really lucky to have this, and I feel like it's one of those glasses maybe that's not made anymore. I don't know where it came from. I don't think I could find it anywhere. I'm going to use it on this project, but I'm not going to use all of it. I'm just going to use a little bit. Oh, here's what the back of it looks like. See, I think it came from an artist's studio because it has some mark on it, and I don't use those markers. I'm not using the back either, though. I'm using this side. And one last thing, if you look closely at this, you don't see very many stems. There are a few in here. Most of them are covered by the leaves, so I will be adding a few stems, but not that many because you can't really see them that well. That's it. When scoring a piece of glass that has texture on one side and it's smooth on the other, oh, there it is. This is Yakagani glass. It's best to score on the smooth side, which only makes sense because it's difficult to score on the bumpy side. Of course, on this one, I have to flip it. If you have ever cut glass, then you know that cutting a very, very thin piece is the hardest cut to do. I'm taking these flat noodles that I already own in green, and that's what I'm using for the stems. But the problem is they're a little bit too tall because I'm putting them on end. So I am just taking and nipping them in half about. Oops. All the way down, putting the cut side up, which is the riven edge. It catches the light in a more sparkly way. And I am also going to be putting a flame underneath them and bending them just a little bit so they look more natural, because otherwise they're a little bit too stiff. That's it. Just that little bend that I'm making makes a huge difference, and it gives the illusion of those cosmos swaying in the breeze. I wanted an odd number, but I didn't want to put any stems down here too close to the front, so I threw one up here, and I think I may be adding some brown ones up here a little bit to sort of indicate the stems on these, the very thin stems that are on these red flowers. So I'll throw a few up there when I get to that part. That's it. up and take a closer look at this. As you can see, I have these pieces that are irregular trapezoids and not quite triangles, but the fronds are sort of splaying out like that, and that's the feel that I've got. I'm using the streakiness of the glass to show that, and using this the modeled pieces in between to fill in the gaps and make it look a little more shadowy and realistic. I love the line that's in this one. It really looks like a stem in there. You know, some of these, and the irregularity of the gaps, if they're a little bit irregular, is nice because it seems more natural to me. That's it. Closer to these areas that are a little bit tighter, I have cut some smaller bits of all the colors just to start putting them in there. And I think I will use some of the other colors and lean away from this just so that there are some swaths of different colored leaves going on. I mixed them up, but they'll be mixed a little bit differently in this part. That's it. I've been blessed here in Georgia with another beautiful overcast where the temperature is not too sweltering. But the problem is it's going to rain. So I want to get started on wrapping and putting thinset on these substrates, but I'm not sure how far I'm gonna get before it starts to rain. So my goal is to try to get these smaller ones finished. And before I put anything on them, I need to use my Wedi washers. I bought these at the tile shop close to my home. It's called The Tile Shop, and it has 100 in it, but I've used almost the whole thing so far. So these, when they are mounted on the wall, when we're finished putting the mosaic on them, we'll put them on both with the screw and with thinset. But the screw on these smaller ones, it's only 9 inches in diameter, so I'm just going to be putting one screw through the center. And then as well on these 12-inch diameter ones, we're just going to be using one screw in the middle there. So these are sort of the easiest ones to work on. I think when we go up in size, I'll be putting 2 screws and they'll need to be lined up. So I'll do that later. I put the template on top of the mosaic here, and then I take one of the screws from the kit and I just punch a hole right in the center. Then I take the template off, and I guess I could put the screw in there too. I just line up the washer right over that hole and punch down. There we go. So I'm going to do that on all of them. slide resistant tape for the edges of these. I'm using white thinset to cut the edge and mortar add mix, which increases the bond strength and performance and just makes it better. Right, that first one did not go well. I used way too much tape, it took way too long, and the thinset did not go on evenly on the edges. So I figured out a better way to do it, and that is to use a longer piece of mesh tape, stick it on the edge, and then notch it with scissors. The taping is more efficient and it doesn't waste tape. It also lays down smoothly from the start, so then there are no issues when I have to spread the thinset. Also, I should have spread the thinset on the back first since it's just on the edges, which makes more sense so when I flip it, it doesn't get all over my little bowl. And I also spread the thinset in the direction of the tape so it doesn't push it up. That's it. Honestly, looking at the edges of this compared to the edges of this one, I may just scrap this one and cut a new piece because I will never recover from that. I can't sand that down because the mesh is there. It's just a disaster. This is the way to go. In between each mandala, I've been coming over here and rinsing off my glove and rinsing off my hand from the thinset. But look at this. This is just captivating. Isn't this the most gorgeous flower ever? I'm not even sure what it is. I'm going to talk for just a minute about grays. So you may have heard about cool grays and warm grays. And just looking at these grays, I will go ahead and say, this is a cool gray, this is a warm gray, this is sort of in between, and this one seems a little on the warm side if I were to choose. So between those, it's usual that you would pick one way to go or the other and not mix them. But when I look at my reference photo, I'm using the grays both as the highlighted black and as the shadowy white.
But it's so good to see you.
Cool gray, and the shadowy white is more of a warm gray. So I'm mixing both warm.
We do this every day, and I'm still so amazed by you. So hold me tight through the night. It's just us two, me and you. Oh, oh, I can't believe you love me. Oh, oh, I just feel so lucky. Oh, oh, still can't believe you love me. It never ends. It's being more than friends, yeah. You know I'm here to stay every single day, yeah. So hold me tight through the night. It's just us two, me and you. Oh, oh, I can't believe you love me. Oh, oh, I just feel so lucky. Oh, oh, still can't believe you love me. Falling into your arms, dancing up in the stars. Oh, where I'd rather be than with you. Oh, oh, I can't believe you love me. Oh, I just feel so